Yes, thank you. I would like to first acknowledge the traditional owners of this land where I'm calling from, Bulu, Perth, WA, and acknowledge the wisdom of Aboriginal elders, both past, present, and emerging, and pay my respect to the Aboriginal communities of today. I'm so glad that you guys are all here. You made it and you cleared the schedule. And I know that we're all time poor, but you being here to spend time with me to prioritize self care makes me very happy and honored. Please say hi in the chat room and tell me where you're coming from. Actually, where do I see the chat? Oh, yes, here. Okay, cool. We've got some people from Sydney, from Perth. Yes, Brisbane, Melbourne. Very cool. Um, Lots from Melbourne. Okay, so today I hope to share with you the three shifts that so that you know how to serve others without giving yourself away and start feeling like you again with a calm and regulated state of mind and body. And my why is that I have lived experience of burnout and I know how hard it is to seek support and not dwelling into that shame spiral. And I guess with layers of cultural and social conditioning, therapists like us humans on the therapist chair are not immune to burnout. And I wanted to share my journey and learnings so that you feel less alone and find ways to do therapy to work differently. And for today, I'm going to cover the three shifts to help you to regulate and reset with your nervous system. And also, we'll be talking a little bit about how to uncover our good therapy spells and some energy management strategies. And the next one is the big shift about the integration, and I'll take you through an experiential exercise as well. I will also be sharing with you how I can support you further at the end of the session, and we'll end with Q&A. Okay? So hopefully we will be able to recognize why traditional self-care advice is not enough for therapists and how to allow our energy system and also our nervous system to work together rather than working against them, and how to bring all parts of ourselves to show up authentically. Do stay until the end so that I will be able to share with you my heart-led therapist energy check-in tool, a 5-minute daily scan to catch burnout before it catches you, to complement what we cover today. Okay, so let me start off by sharing a little family of origin story. But before I share this, I wanted to let you know, or the therapist part of you, to know that I am okay and I don't need rescue, because some of these might be a little bit triggering, and but do know that I'm okay. Um, so I was born and raised in a small town in Malaysia called Tangkak. As you could see, my dad was quite old when he had me, and I am the sixth out of seven children. I have five older brothers and a younger sister after me. And this picture is us in a two-bedroom house. So we moved out of a house of 120 people. Um, so growing up, I was the wild child on the street and hanging out with my brothers and playing marbles and banana leaves and maybe just wearing an undie, just running around, like catching fish and all that. But it was all free and okay. And until my dad started getting conned by these comments for 10 years, and at the time when I was in kindergarten, and over a prolonged period of time for 10 years. So, yes, childhood trauma, and there were a lot of like conflicts and arguments, financial difficulties. When my dad stopped working, and then my mom become the breadwinner to ride a motorbike with a big bamboo basket at the back to sell fish and veggies every day through the neighborhood. At school, I'm very blessed with a photographic memory that I could remember things very well and perform really well at school. I was a duck student every year throughout primary school years. No one knows what happened at home because I was really good at masking. And as I got through high school, I started to become more social and less about studying and performing my best. And in hindsight, I realized that, oh, that was actually ADHD. And I started to kind of like, less about studying, not handing in homework, etc., etc. But I was a very empathetic listener and started to get into Buddhism and psychology. So after high school, that was the time that the con man was caught, and my dad finally realized that it was a con business. And at the time, my brother were able to earn money and support me to come overseas to study. So I was really determined to study psychology, even though my family, they all object to that because they think that like, oh, you should be a nurse, an accountant, or a teacher. It was frowned upon, and they're worried that I might not be able to get a job as a psychologist. So the picture on the right is my family sending me to the airport to study psychology in Perth. That was me. Um, So, like many psychologists, I was a high achiever and thrive on demands and really find great satisfaction in my work. And work in government sector in disability services for over 7 years, and also in group private practices, and now I've been practicing for 17 years. So after I became a parent, after having children and having maternity leave, though, it was much harder to juggle work-life balance. Working very hard at the beginning made me feel really satisfied and happy, and I was juggling all the different roles and was okay. But it was not until my parents passed away unexpectedly, and in 2 years, in 2018 and 2019, that I started to experience more struggle to manage all the juggle, and my body started to go downhill with severe iron deficiency and chronic back pain and neck pain. And but I still continue to push. For some reason, that's like, how we're being conditioned that like, oh, if I'm not doing as well, I just need to push harder. But I know that if it's very difficult to manage my fatigue and emotionally and physically depleted. There's no work-life balance. I was writing report until late and have like chronic insomnia. The more I try to control, the more it becomes harder. And so I guess being Asian, and I was taught since young to kind of like look after other people and sacrifice myself for the harmony of the family. This become my normal, like just depleted and tired. So as I got into Qing and doing some of the inner work, and I realized some of the mindset and limiting beliefs that is actually painting some of my burnout. And I started to return back to my spiritual practice as a Buddhist and experience a few breakthrough and transformation in my personal growth and the way I show up in therapy, work, and personal life. And as part of that, living that vision and mission, I founded the Blossoming Therapist community to empower other people to reset from soul depletion to soul blossoming. Not just using the biopsychosocial model, but also incorporating the spiritual elements for greater integration. So my approach is greatly influenced by my Buddhism practice, psychology, and neuroscience. So I realized that my story is not new, and you can probably find yourself in my story. Burnout has carried such a stigma in our profession, and we don't want to acknowledge them. And to be honest, at the time, I probably didn't think that I was in burnout. And there was a lot of like self-blaming and self-doubt that I'm the problem narrative, and things were quite different. I was just kind of like operating in survival mode a lot of the time. So tell me in the chat, like, are you recognizing that signs of burnout, or like what are the burnout signs that you can notice in yourself? Are you feeling like you are a one, like, recognizing that something needs to change but unsure where to start? Or two, you're motivated and but you're stuck in the survival mode or just tired, overwhelmed? Yes, I can see like a one and two, you recognizing that something needs to change. And some people feel like they are a little bit stuck in survival mode. Yes, great. And I think that's the reason we're here, right? We wanted to kind of like start doing things differently. If you're finding yourself harder to reset between sessions or like, lying awake, thinking about the stories that you hear during your sessions, or feeling that numbness or cynicism, or sometimes the burnout rage at home, wanting to be a loving parent, the times where you're so tired and then you just not the best version of yourself at home. So I hope that today, with today's sharing, that you can get some ideas to know how to shift from feeling depleted to feeling grounded and regulated again. I think like I don't know if this is something that you guys may feel, but a lot of us might secretly think that like, everyone else is doing so well. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm not cut out for the therapy work. I'm so tired and overwhelmed every day. I can't juggle it all. It's all on me. Is it something that you guys feel like it? Maybe you can write me too in the chat if that's something that you feel at times. Um, yeah. Yeah, definitely. Jacqueline was saying like definitely juggling it all. Don't know how else do it. Yes. So you definitely not alone and looking at the comments and I've definitely been there, done that. Okay, so now let's start by talking about the first shift and why, the typical self-care advice like taking a bubble bath or do more yoga actually doesn't really cut to the chase of like why we feel so tired at the end of the day. I wanted to start by talking about the differences between empathy and compassion. Would anyone want to give it a go and about, what are the differences between the two? What is empathy and what is compassion? Anyone?
I'm happy. Hi, Poh. Great
Hi,
being here.
Jacqueline. Yes.
Thank you so much for putting this on. Um, for me, the difference I think is empathy can be draining because we're just so deep in the feeling of another,
Yeah.
whereas compassion has more an active component, like I feel for the other, but I also have a wish to alleviate their suffering. So I feel a little bit more, it's more an energy where I feel like I can do something about it. So it's less draining. That's one of the tips
Yes.
for me.
Yes, 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 and you are exactly right that like compassion is that feeling for other people's suffering and wanting to like activate to do something to help out, and it actually involved like care-seeking network. So the parts of our brain that get activated when we're in compassion state versus when we're in empathy state is are actually totally different. And so when we're in compassion stance, the care-seeking network actually activated and we actually have more dopamine and we activate the ventral stratum and the pregenual anterior cingulate cortex and medial orbital prefrontal cortex. This is more connected to the self energy when we are unblended from our parts and when the parts are relaxed and we can actually hold space for ourselves, our own parts that get triggered in the session or the client's parts. It is with pristine awareness and self energy. I'll talk about more about self energy a bit later, but empathy is resonating with another person's pain, like you said, when we are feeling another person's feeling, we are feeling another person's pain, where the parts of the brain that get activated are the anterior portion of the insular anterior mid-cingulate cortex. It's an interoceptive, embodied sense of, feeling someone else's pain. We can get burnt out easily in empathy. Feeling too much of our clients' feelings is a blended state. And feeling my feelings when you're feeling your feelings. And sometimes we tear up with a client and we're not really tearing up for them. And perhaps some parts of our wounds get activated in the sessions. And when we are in our parts, in our thinking mind, when we're empathically resonating with the person, it's as if we are experiencing their pain and we're experiencing and triggering our own pain. That's a very important distinction that we need to recognize. And a combination of both empathy and compassion are important in our work because sometimes our clients need us to feel what they're feeling, right? To truly get it. And so the neuroscience actually shows that like when someone is sympathetically activated in fight or flight response, compassion is actually more useful. We hold space for them when they are in fight or flight state. If we join them with their feelings and having too much feelings as we're feeling our feelings, and then it will be too much energy and it's not going to be very helpful in the session. But when our client is shut down, dissociated, numb, or disconnected, then empathy is more useful. Then we are able to connect with them and resonate with their protective parts instead of, shutting down. But if we're not aware of where we are at, and we because as therapists, our nervous systems are our primary tools, right? So after a typical day of I don't know, 5 to 8 sessions of co-regulation and activating our nervous system to co-regulate with our clients, using a lot of empathy, getting activated, over time will accumulate that impact on our nervous system. And when we're not having any reset time, our nervous system will get overwhelmed. And when it's not managed well, it can get to us to empathic fatigue and distress quite easily. So the hidden cost of chronic presence and our nervous system constantly activating when we are mirroring our clients' emotions and absorbing their stories and traumatic memories and content together with some of our own stuff, then wanting to be perfect and like, keeping the peace and making sure that everyone is happy at work, in personal life, or carrying everyone's energy but without any reset, then perhaps that's the reason why we can't really switch off and feel wired and overwhelmed a lot of the time. If we don't have any repair or reset time, we can get to empathic fatigue very easily. But this is not us. This is this is not us lacking resilience or that we can't juggle it all. It is actually a nervous system dysregulation that we are experiencing, right? And we need to know when we are in empathic state or whether we are in compassionate stance and how do we repair and reset. So I wanted to introduce this. Just maybe let me know if you are trained in IFS, internal family systems therapy, or I guess a lot of us are ACT practitioners. We talk about the observing self as part of our work. I use IFS language, a pure, pristine state of being that's always with you, unblended state of witnessing, complete with inherent wisdom, awareness, and the 8 C's, compassion, confidence, creativity, calm, courage, curiosity, clarity, and connectedness. And this self energy, in Buddhism, we call it the Buddha nature, is complete within each and every one of us. And we can access this self energy sometimes through the guided meditation or movement and being in nature. And I think this is the same state when we are in compassionate stance, when we are actually allowing our parts to show up, but without rejecting them, without attaching to them. I'll guide you through the self-energy practice afterward, but I wanted to point out that if we're in self-energy a lot of the time and aligning to our self-energy, then we are less likely to get burnt out because that is already within each and every one of us, and that is not us getting activated pathically. And a lot of us may access self energy not just in meditation, but also in movement and being in nature when we experience that awe and wonder. And that is our self energy. And each and every one of us have that. And we don't need to seek out externally. It is not about recognize or like having another thing that you have to do on your to-do list, but it's more about coming home to yourself. And it takes practice and that embodied understanding of what it is like to be in that self energy state. But if you don't have a lot of time, you can do like a 60-second regulation reset where what you want to do is to shift your attention to notice where you are in the space, your body position, and feel the contact of you. Maybe there's the place where you're sitting on, and just noticing if there is any tension that you're holding in your body and allowing yourself to anchor to your breathing. Just find that natural rhythm and soften any part of you that has holding the tension. And usually that holding of tension is information for us to know that means something for us and what can we do about it. And when we shift from like, holding the tension to noticing and stepping back and observing and breathing, and that is us shifting from fight or flight response to a more ventral vagus nerve where you feel more expansive and open. So that could just take us 1 minute, and it will be able to help us to kind of like have a little bit more space. Um, I hope you guys can try this ritual, the between session meditation that I learned from Frank Anderson, a psychiatrist and a well-known IFS trainer, where we, after that 50 minutes of session, and then we have another like 10 minutes of mini break, maybe you can check in with your body to see if there is any part of your body that is still tense and tight. And usually, like, if we were using activating our empathic state, sometimes there's this emotional energy that is activated within you. And maybe just pause and check in. What am I carrying with my previous client? Maybe validate and acknowledge that. And sometimes it's helpful information. Oh, like I'm still holding this, I'm still having that feeling in my jaw or my shoulder. And maybe I'll just quickly write down on my notes, like, what was that about? And then I'll take a deep breath to clear the energy off and release as I exhale, and stepping into that and tapping to that self energy and pristine awareness and sending love and compassion to my previous client. May them be well. And then in my head, I'll like kind of establish that internal boundary, whether it is through visualization or with mantra, to remind yourself that you and your client are actually separate and different. And then I will actually think about, like I'm going to see the next client. What am I feeling towards them? Is there any part that is activated within me? And then I'll hold them lightly and allow them to step back, and sending that love and compassion to my next client. And unblend from the activated energy and allow myself to be more open to that spacious awareness for the next client. Um, do you guys have some sort of rituals like this in your own practice? I'm just curious. Does anyone want to share? about like, if you do some type of like between session rituals that you allowed you to clear your energy off?
Yeah, I'm happy to share my little, if
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I do a breath in for me and a breath out for the client. And sometimes
Yes.
it's just three conscious breath. And then I also send them with my movement. So I send them away like this,
Mm,
back into their world and their universe to kind of have that boundary that you're referring to. So that's kind of
yeah.
my little
Yes.
practice.
Yes.
When I
And
remember, I don't always do
yeah,
it.
yeah. Yes, I guess like when we're consciously aware of, we're holding tension and energy, it is kind of like an energy um, transmission, not transmission, or exchange in the session. We're actively using our nervous system to co-regulate with the client in front of us that could actually, be activating and for us. And if we're like really conscious about it, then perhaps we don't have to carry so much in our system. And towards the end of the day, feeling so tired and heavy and having a lot of recovery time. Okay. Hopefully, like, showing you the difference between the empathy and compassion will help you to recognize that burnout is not a personal flaw. It is a nervous system dysregulation. And when we do work with our nervous system, and we can reclaim that capacity. And I think recognizing that our job actually inherently have that occupational health and safety hazards of like taking in too much, and particularly if we're highly sensitive, if we are neurodivergent, and it can be really challenging if we're not aware of that. Can you see how this could be helpful if we started to kind of being more aware of what state we are in? Let me know in the chat. Yeah, and Tatiana said that she practices energetic clearing regularly. Well done. That's really good. Um, okay, so the next shift is about rhythm, and it's a big one. I think we all carry this conditioning, whether we are conscious or unconscious, as a helper that we need to work harder, see more clients, manage my time better, because we all find great meaning and purpose in helping other people. And I realized that I'm not the only one thinking like this. And there's a sense of grind and hustle behind this huge expectation that we have to ourselves and to do better and be more productive. Which one of these beliefs feels very familiar for you guys? Do you hold this type of belief that you just have to push through the fatigue and rest is unproductive, and like if other people can use this time management, I can too, or like more clients means more impact? For us too, for sure. Yes. um yeah, so this is a very I think it's quite prevalent in amongst us, and I think like being Asian and with very hardworking parents, it's drew into me that I have to work hard. And even though I choose a helping profession, and I still continue to have the same habits as my other siblings, we work hard. So I realized that I have to have an honest look of what drives these narrative of overfunctioning, ignoring my body, and being so driven. There's actually what I call the good therapist spells that is at play here. With my own burnout, I was under a lot of that good girl spells of perfection, logic, rules following, harmony, and self-sacrifice, with the dominant spells on perfection, harmony, and sacrifice. So I've created, not perfect, this quiz on the QR code. If you want, you can use the QR code to try the 10 questions I have for you to work out, which good therapy spells that you are under that might have played a part in your overwhelm and like that soul depletion feeling. And for folks who are trained in schema therapy, will be familiar with some of these unmet needs in childhood that might have shaped us when we were younger. And a lot of us might identify with that perfectionistic thinking, unrelenting standards and people pleasing, self-sacrificing tendencies. I think like majority of us are women. The patriarchy message that we get as, growing up, the cultural messages of what is expected of us could be playing a part in our burnout. And I feel like it is like a spell because when you're under it and you're unaware of it, it dictates a lot of your thinking, your behavior unconsciously. So if we're aware of them, then we can dance differently to that same old patterns. And I wanted to stress that Tatiana said it's all of the above. Yes. Uh, yes. I wanted to stress that like some of these good therapist spells or good girl spells, they make us more vulnerable to burnout, but they started off somewhere in our past history with that strong, fierce intention to protect us. And I think like our brains just created all of these patterns to keep us safe and accepted and successful, but maybe at a cost that we're not aware of them. So give it a try, and then I'm just going to go through each of them briefly. I don't have time to go through all of them in detail, but this is perhaps some of what a good girl in us strive for perfection may sound like and look like. This need for us to perform at our best in all areas of our life without breaking a sweat. Um, I was not aware of that, but I recognize that, not just at work, but as in parenting, in like, personal life, I am using the same standard towards myself and maybe like the Barbie movie, right? Like perhaps you have watched that we expect ourselves to manage work, parenting, hobbies, volunteering, everything really well and don't allow ourselves to make mistakes. And we risk, feeling that chronic exhaustion and perhaps that imposter syndrome that's driving behind, that we keep continue to overwork and having high standards. Perhaps that is driving some of the burnout that we may experience. And striving for harmony is that tendency to please other people, to keep the peace. So even though we may have a lot on our plate, but we just find it hard to say no. And because we wanted to avoid conflict and confrontation, that perhaps don't just show up at work, but also at home, in personal relationships, and maybe if you're really busy, but you still say, okay, I will bake the cupcakes in the kids' school events. Perhaps that will then show up in that, as there are some of the burnout risks and physical signs that perhaps will show up for you if you're under the spell of striving for harmony. Sacrifice. I think like that's not a surprise now that every therapist to some extent identify with that. When we put other people's needs above our own and put ourselves last, we are not consciously safeguarding our time and energy. And it means that we often overextend ourselves and perhaps we don't have the capacity, but we still take on more referrals and doing more sessions and doing late nights, even though our body is telling us that no, we can't do that. But we continue to push forward. And perhaps it may show up as chronic fatigue and autoimmune system issues. If you're under the spell of logic, striving for logic, and maybe we're more stuck in our head and finding it hard to tune into our body signals or intuition. So we wanted to appear smart and analytical, credible. We're using science, evidence-based practice, and perhaps we might find it hard to tune into our imagination, creativity, and empathy for ourselves and other people. And perhaps some of these unmet needs when we're younger with play and spontaneity is playing a part in how it shows up for us now. Um, for rules following, I guess it is more of that rigid adherence to that external standards, whether it is like, this is how to be a good parent, this is how to be a good psychologist, and the opera, and so many things that actually kind of like because we are trained from young and from since school to follow rules that set up from schools and unis and how to pass the test. A lot of the time, when we blindly just follow what's out there, our internal voice and our intuition may get silenced. We're just going through the motion to fulfill what other people expect of us, but we may not feel really fulfill ourselves. So let me know in the chat which spell do you identify with, and that is playing a part in your version of depletion or burnout. Did anyone try the test or the quiz? Sorry. Harmony, Bian, yes. And it's very common for people from the Asian background or people of color. Cool. Shall we just finish the quiz? Harmony, logic, and sacrifice. Yes. And I think it's something to be aware of before we jump into energy management, because if we are under a lot of these spells and the guilt and the self-doubt and the over-functioning, it still continue to drive us and making us feel like, oh, I need to do everything, but disregarding our own energy levels. So perhaps we can have a look at, how do we currently plan our day and week? Is it by the clock or by your energy or a mix of both? And I think we traditionally, I guess like maybe I shall ask, is there anything that's not working in your current schedule? Maybe what do you notice that the way that you manage your time and energy right now, what is not working? Would anyone wanted to share a little bit? If not, I'm just aware of time. I think perhaps I've learned to color code my calendar to ensure mini breaks before this is filled up. Okay, great. Yes, and I think like the incorporation that mini breaks is so important. And I think like in the past, I tried so hard to time manage and, falling into that trap that maybe it's because of my ADHD that I can't manage my time well and pack my calendar to the fullest and maximize that productivity because I wanted to be, appearing perfect, I guess. Um, but time is finite. It's only every one of us have 24 hours, and even though we wanted to be human, but we all just have 24 hours. And whereas energy is renewable, and time sometimes just ignore our own human needs, and perhaps in our monthly cycle that we can't, continue to have the same expectation to ourselves. But if we are just blindly following just hustle and grind, and then we will continue to get into that cycle of like, work, 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 and then no breaks in between. So I hope that like I started to practice the new way, which is the energy management to flow with my natural rhythm, to really prioritize energy renewal and work out when are the times that I do perform the best and build up sustainable practices that really allow me to kind of like come back to my centered self. And rest is not a reward. We don't have to earn that. It is more that we actually wanted to renew our energy and so that we can give and recover. So if we're really attuned to ourselves, not just living in the head and follow rigid rules, if we really consciously examine like some of these good therapist spells that we're under and changing our relationship to it, maybe we can, instead of just offering, oh, I have an open slot and I can see you, or just trying to push through, we will slow down and pause and think about, do I have the energy? Do I have the spoons? How does my body feel about this? Can I honor what my body is telling me? And I think in the past, I'm so used to that crash and burn type of episodes and I work hard and then crash and I burn out. But this is actually not sustainable anymore. And we need to work a different way. Then, like, we can actually do more in the direction that we wanted to go. And we also need to engage in holistic energy management. So, not just in one area, but the four types of energy. So, the secret is that we need to know that energy is renewable. If we want more spaciousness and ease, we need to look at how we're feeling and the feel that our body is having, the physical, the quantity of energy, the focus of the energy, our mental energy, and also the spiritual energy, our fire, our why. So if we are paying attention to all four of them, then we are more likely to replenish ourselves in all areas and actually having that full engagement. And given our job, it has needs a lot of emotional energy. How do we allow ourselves to have more elevated range of emotions like gratitude, compassion, love, equanimity? So I guess it is about understanding where we are at in each level. If we are feeling pumped and really have that consistent flow of spiritual energy where we actually understand our purpose and our meaning and really tune into our values and we find meaning in the work that we do, it also allows us to really judge whether this thing on our to-do list or this thing on our plate, like, is it worth staying or we can actually take them away. So in your workbook, there are some of the energy drainers that I've listed out, and I think it's on page 3. There are 4 areas of energy, 4 domains of energy that I've split out, and perhaps you can circle the ones that applies to you and write down some of the energy drainers that you notice in each area, perhaps because we sit down a lot in our work and perhaps that sedentary lifestyle might not be very helpful for us and it drains a lot of our energy. Maybe I'll give you guys some time to work out some of the drainers that are actually sucking a lot of energy off you. In the following page of the workbook, I actually provide like a table that allowed you to perhaps take some time to map your energy level, maybe using yesterday as an example. But I guess it's just the idea of working out like every day, every hour, what is your energy level out of 10? Is there a pattern that you can start to recognize that actually perhaps I perform better in a certain time zone, like whether it's morning or nighttime. Maybe that's your peak performance times, and perhaps you wanted to do more of your important job and during that time. Perhaps you wanted to write your report during that time, or write your blogs or content creation and that creative zones that you may have regardless of whether we have that peak time or like we do a lot of work or not, after we focus for 90 minutes, usually our attention span go down, our energy level go down, and it is about consciously, what can I do to replenish my energy and recover my energy because I've used them and now I need to recover. I know for myself that admin work sucks a lot of energy out of me. And so I've chose to delegate out to other people, hire a VA, and maybe like we wanted to do it during a time that requires less brain power, or maybe use body doubling if needed to. The other important ones is the menstrual cycle that actually our hormones change and it would affect our motivation levels, our energy levels. I guess like my invitation for you is to think about how you can plan your workload around that. Lucy Peach and one of my friends, Aphrodite, has really interesting resources and ideas about how to plan your energy around your monthly cycles. That will be something that is worth checking out. So I was thinking of doing the energy boosters, crowdsourcing. Usually, if we're doing a face-to-face workshop, I will get all the participants to write down on the butcher's paper the things that work for them. So I'd like for you all to help me to write on the whiteboard later. And perhaps, okay, hang on. How do I get out of this? Okay, I need to get out here. Oh, hang on. And I'll call out the whiteboard. This is saying, let's see if we can all help out each other about um, what we could do in each of the energy domains. What are the things that you find helpful to recover your energy? And every one of us can actually contribute and write. If you want, just go on the whiteboard and write down some of the ideas that you have. I was going to play music here at this time and pump up the energy, but I couldn't share whiteboard and music at the same time. So please start writing down, and I will start writing down as well. Are you guys able to type? Oh, good. Yes. So I will say, let's give ourselves 5 minutes. Okay, go. Um, okay. And just self energy. Mm, Oh, that's 5 minutes. Okay, how do we go? We have more ideas? That's lovely. Thank you so much for all this contribution. Let's see. Um, I still have more to go. Um, that's lovely that we have. So for physical energy boosters, we have exercise, cycling, stretching, yummy food, 15 minutes break between each client. Oh, I love that. Longer lunch break, quality sleep, morning sunlight exposure, walk in nature, gentle movement like stretching, walking, active rest, not scheduling anything and spending quality time with myself. I love that. Um, and emotional energy. Oh, like this nap and nice long shower. I love that. Um, so emotional energy, we have spending time with pets, giving myself self-compassion, meditation, singing, karaoke. Yes. I actually have a karaoke machine at home. So sometimes we sing and dance and oh, hang on. Tina's just arrived. Um, Cuddle and play with my dog. Yes. And the unconditional love that our dog like give us. Oh, hang on. Um, so be a spiritual energy, like purpose-driven activities, values clarification, self-energy practices. That's what I wrote. Spend time with my children and husband, being in nature, meditation retreat, meditation, visualization, and engaging in activities that elicit awe for me, admiring a beautiful sunset, yes, and being in forest and having conversation with ancestors for strength. Oh, I love that. Um, and our spiritual guides, and that would be really helpful. And being in the present, reflection, and mental energy. Um, Breathe in for me, breathe out for client between sessions, self-affirmation, identifying unhelpful self-talk, giving myself time to sit in contemplation, tuning into myself, learning something new, creative writing, visualization, creativity, tap into creativity, gratitude journaling, they are all really awesome ideas, and I am going to compile all of them into a document and send it to you guys, or maybe like do a screenshot. I don't know. Can I do it now? Let's see. Okay. Um, so how do you like that activity? I'm just going to type it in the chat. Um, if you, what do you think about that activity while I exchange my slides over and chat? Yes. Um, okay. Are we in the right place? Okay. Okay. So perhaps hopefully you guys find it helpful to, think about what are some of the things that will be helpful for you to actively recover and give yourself energy and renew your own energy. Perhaps you can think about in the morning, what are some of the things that will generate energy for you, and maybe to consciously think about the times where your energy dips and what are the things that you can do to recover your energy, and some of the transition rituals that you can think about at night for you to go to sleep and rest. And perhaps you can write down what is one ritual that truly fills your cup, your emotional cup, your spiritual cup, to make you feel really ground and centered. And something for you to think about and write it down in your and in the chat to share with everyone. Um, So hope that it gives you this idea and a starting point for you to know that like you can explore how your energy patterns and plan around your energy and allow that somatic awareness to guide you through how you prioritize your work. Um, and when you are aware of our good therapist spells and create a rhythm that honors your energy, we can serve more powerfully and sustainably instead of pushing ourselves harder until we feel depleted within. Um, okay, so the next shift, and as we regulate and find our rhythm, the next big shift that I wanted to share is a little bit more about integration. And how many of you feel like you have to hide yourself when you're in therapy sessions? Um, I have this experience, and I guess to some extent, we carry a different persona when we are at work, and because of the context, right? And context matters. Um, but I guess, like, when we get into such a pattern where we are drained, but we still need to show up for work, and sometimes it feels like we are putting on a mask during the session so that we can continue on for work to show up for our clients, um, which can be really tricky. And I love this Instagram post that I saw yesterday from Lacey Wen. Behind that calm demeanor, that nicely decorated office and thoughtful questions and comfy cardigans, there are lots of things that we other people don't see. Maybe it is the imposter syndrome, the self-doubts, and the empathic fatigue, the vicarious trauma, and to navigate that challenging legal and ethical responsibility. And a lot of the time, we hold secrets that we can't really share with other people. And so I guess I'm not sure if anyone needs to hear this, um, but from my personal experience being an Asian therapist, speaking a different language, having a different faith, different upbringing, different socioeconomic background, having a neurotype that is different, and our worldview and cultures. At the same time, we're trying to fit into um, the system so that we don't stand out too much. It can sometimes feel like, we can get exhausted if we are not able to integrate all parts of us. And um, it's not just the empathic fatigue that we are holding, but there are other parts of us that perhaps we find it hard to reconcile the two. And perhaps you don't feel safe yet to in your nervous system to do to show up fully as yourself. And I know that, like, perhaps for me it takes a while, a few years before I am happy and I'm able to share openly about some of the parts of myself that I used to feel hard to share. um, and I think not only our cultural background and my experience is not unique, being the migrant neurodivergent psychologist, and maybe we also learned that from our training, our professional training, that we need to be a blank slate and to maintain boundaries, to never self-disclose, and always be composed and put together. Um, and just going to briefly touch on this. I think hopefully you guys are familiar with, or I don't know if anyone is a fan of like Frozen, or if you have watched K-pop Demon Hunters, that I use some of them as my example recently. Um, but I think like I went through this phase from um, never let other people see you struggle, keeping it all together and being that perfect persona, and never self-disclose. My struggles actually disqualify me, and I must have all the answers to actually recognizing my shared humanity and my experience, my journey actually informs my practice and actually is something that is unique. And recently I realized that like I am going to be always different from other people, and that's okay. And to be okay with that imposter syndrome, that knowing that I am always going to stand out wherever I go. So I guess like I don't know if you have that space to talk about these in your supervision. I think it's great that you have that. And but I think a lot of us just focus supervision in like case formulation. And I do think that like perhaps we need a third space to talk about the integration of all um, the therapy work and the personal life, and to really simply find our whole true self, um, to recognize the different parts of us and to have that compassionate stance towards them, um, who wanted control, who wanted protection, who wanted acceptance and safety. If not, we'll have more energy leaks, and like perhaps that plays up in our burnout or disconnection and self-doubt. Or like we actually have to spend more energy um, covering or like, masking ourselves. Um, and when I started to self-identify as ADHD in the recent years, I find more grace and understanding for myself, instead of like, keep thinking that like I have to hide this part of me and being bullied by my internalized ableism. Um, and like I'm interested in Buddhism, and I find it hard to talk about those things with my colleagues, but slowly starting to talk about them actually makes me feel more whole and more connected to myself. um, so I think that's an invitation for you to think about like how do we reconcile the two, the different parts of us. um, and I think when we start integrating and bringing that openness and bringing that I can be with my different parts and share wisdom. Oh, sorry. Okay, is anyone not mute? Just please mute so that we can hear each other. So I like to understand. Oh, hang on. Sorry, I'm not sure how to. Yes, I think I could mute. Yes, thank you. Um, okay. So I think like, it comes, I realized that when I release that I must be perfect therapist and start embracing that I'm the wounded healer, and all of my experience and my struggles are actually my gift, that I could actually authentically stand here and share my stories, and inviting you guys to actually start thinking about this. And when we are integrated, more than our sessions perhaps will feel more energizing, and our wisdom will flow naturally, and the therapeutic work would actually deepen effortlessly, and the impact will multiply. And I think like we all know that the most important predictor for therapeutic outcomes is actually our therapeutic relationships with our clients. So this will actually allow for greater clinical outcomes as we become more embodied, more connected in our self, and more integrated. Okay, so um, I'm just going to give a little taster about the self energy, and I'll invite you guys to do this self energy exercise with me, a little bit of guided meditation, if that's okay. Um, should I? Uh, all right, I'll just not worry about switching the slides, but maybe just take a moment to settle into your space. Take some deep breaths. Feel the surface beneath you, supporting your body, and notice any tensions. And with each exhale, Just allowing those areas to soften. Allow your breath to be natural. Just simply observe that rhythm of your breathing. You may gently close your eyes if you want to, or lower your gaze. Now bring your attention to the center of your chest, to the area around your heart. And just imagine a warm, glowing light and brightness here. This light represents your self-energy, your true soul essence that is filled with compassion, curiosity, and calmness. As you focus on this light and just notice if it grows warmer or brighter. There is neither rejecting nor clinging, just a pure essence of clear knowing with no judgment, just like still waters, bright and clear, pristine and clear, like a mountain, steady and still. So you can take some deep breath and really anchor yourself to this light and this self-energy within you. Just gently invite any parts of you that are ready to make themselves known to come into your awareness. They may present as mental images, thoughts, words, emotions, or bodily sensations. Whatever form it is, it's okay. I talk about some of the good therapy spells. There might be some of these wounded parts of us, the part of us that's rushing for the next to-do list, the things that you need to follow up on, or the part of you that asks for perfectionism, people pleasing, neglecting yourself as you look after other people. Or the part of you that's critical of your thoughts and feelings. To see if you can acknowledge each part with kindness. And be saying internally, I see you. I'm here with you. And see if you can observe and accept without judgment. Maybe you wanted to choose a part that feels most present to you right now. And maybe just gently ask what it wants you to know and listen with curiosity. You may ask, what are you afraid of? Or you may ask, what do you need from me? Just allow this part to share a story with you. I want you to know that there's no bad parts. Every part of us emerged to protect us in some way from our past history. Just listen without judgment. And see if you can bring that self energy, the warm, glowing light from your heart towards this part. Imagine wrapping this part with brightness of loving kindness, compassion, and understanding. And let it know that you appreciate its effort to protect you or to help you. Invite this part to relax and take a step back. And knowing that your self energy is here to lead and support. Notice how your body feels as this part of you relax and release some of the tension. Maybe not entirely, maybe just slightly. And thank you, this part, for allowing and stepping back. Begin to bring awareness back to your breath. Noticing the inhale and exhale. You may wiggle your fingers and toes and gently bring movement back into your body. When you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes, carrying that sense of calm and connection with you into the rest of your day. So that's just a little taster. What do you notice? Oh, I just read Tatiana's comment about you spoke of this as well, and this is the source of Empower's true power. Oh, I love that. Thank you, Tatiana. Feeling a bit more relaxed. Yeah, great, Vienne. Um, I'm feeling a lot more relaxed as well as I'm leading the guided meditation back into my self energy. So I hope that, like, if we continue to practice returning back to our whole self, our true self, and bring that to work, and we will stop leaking energy and start thriving. And perhaps that thriving is the integration of all parts of us and being able to be compassionate towards different parts of us and in a powerful way. Grounded and clarity, like I have been kind to myself, warmth. Yes. Oh, that's funny. Felt a sense of warmth and self-compassion. Yes, that's good. Um, so I've covered the three shifts to make life more nourishing for you. And what stood out for you? Maybe you can type in a chat one thing that you got out of today's session. And Taja said, yep. Um, your voice carries a kind of calm that gently settles the soul. Oh, thank you. Time is finite. Energy is renewable. I love that. Great. The energy distribution throughout the day. Yes. Yes. And if we really pay attention and we can find that pockets of time that we're most energetic and do some of the things during that time and plan our work around that, isn't it? Yeah. Cool. Um, so the next part is how I can support you. And if these shifts are resonating for you and you're ready to go deeper, here's how I can support you to really dive in and go deeper to live out these three shifts and embody them. And I'll show you what's my upcoming offer, She Blossoms. This is the invitation to blossom into your true self. And in doing so, we can create space for both service and self-care, bring your whole self to therapy work and finding joy in the journey of helping other people. So it's a 12-week immersive journey um, to help you to break free from your conditioned self, the burnout loop, the impossible standards, and the silent suffering that you have to hide, and start reclaiming your joy, energy, purpose, and presence. Um, so it's created by me with my life experience. Um, and it is not about quick fix, but it's more of a deep, sustainable change from your nervous system to your sense of purpose. So you learn to honor your needs and start to listen to your body and embodying that calm, regulated nervous system. And we'll talk about your soul purpose, your why inside and outside of therapy. And we'll talk about how to integrate your cultural, spiritual, and personal truth into your being in therapy and at work. And there will be a supported community that for you to be fully human, not just a good therapist, but vulnerability is welcome. And I do believe that healing is collective and happening in groups and need not to be happening just in one-on-one therapy. So you learn in this program to let go of that fear-based conditioning and but start to be more self-led, truly at work and in personal life, so that you can lead your practice with that aligns with your energy and values from a place of fullness and sustainability, not depletion. Say no with confidence and kindness. And say yes without guilt because you're clear on your own limits and your needs. To trust yourself again, to feel grounded in your body and practice what you preach in your body, not just as a knowledge, but an embodied wisdom, and truly embody that future self that you wanted to be. Hopefully, at the end of the sessions, at the end of 3 months, you can walk out of your office with a clear mind and relaxed body with peaceful transitions from work to rest, steady, natural energy that sustains you throughout the day, and more quality time with your loved ones, present and energized, feeling calmer, peaceful, feeling connected and supported. So this is the investment in growth for the total value. So there will be weekly pre-recorded video sessions and practical tools and resources, private community connection with other therapists, and 8 weekly 90 minutes live calls that will touch on and be more experiential in our practices. And there will be some bonuses like the Compassionate Boundaries Toolkit and Bodhi Meditation Circle recordings. And for the early bird, for people who wanted to jump on this before 4th of August, there will be 10% discount for the total price of 1,200 plus GST. It will be a 10% discount to $1,080. And there will be 2 VIP one-on-one coaching sessions at the end and in the middle of the program to help with integration for content and practices for the early birds. Wanted to share a little bit about the fellow therapists, Andra, who have participated in my She Blossoms program. Before joining the program, she was dealing with chronic illnesses and low energy. She said she didn't even know if she wanted to be a psychologist anymore, feeling stuck and stagnant, not knowing what to do. And after the She Blossoms program, she discovered her unique rhythm, create sustainable boundaries, and enhance that connection and practice and actually meeting her own needs. So she said that I'm in a completely different place than when I started. I'm feeling so much more peace-filled, so much calmer. I haven't had any real sense of overwhelm. My capacity has increased significantly, and it was the best use of my time. I feel so much more whole and healed by doing the course. So if it might not suit everyone, but it's a possibility if you wanted to consider this as your next step. If you are ready to expand your therapeutic presence and align your work with your values and um, invest in your personal growth and spiritual growth to grow in a community. Um, my maths is not the best, but I know a little bit about therapy's maths. So sometimes if we are burnt out and the lost income when we call in sick or we cancel a session, there's a lot of lost revenue. Um, it could be up to a week of 2,500. Um, depends on how much you charge and how many people do you see. But with only a one-time investment of 1,200 or the early bird um, offer, we can actually have sustainable practice that reduce burnout weeks and cancel sessions and sick leave. Oh, ooh, that is my timer. I'm sorry. um, So hopefully this journey will, offer you more time and more energy for evening connections and weekends for joy and creativity, not just recovery, but like, really from the fullness and from joy that you are creating space for your creativity project and confidence in sustainable practice and space for personal and practice growth. Hopefully, that will also deepen your therapeutic presence and relationships and to be able to show up authentically at work and a better aligned work-life integration. Um, I guess um, the questions perhaps at this point that you might be wondering, like, can I afford this? Do I have time? I'd like to invite you to think about the real question of would I give myself this opportunity for growth? Um, Maybe 6 months from now, you think yourself for taking this step and to invest in your personal growth, to choose authenticity, integration, and sustainability. I know for myself that it was um, the times when I started coaching and doing some of the energy healing work are the times that that was a conscious decision to choose myself. Um, so I just wanted to invite you guys, if there's any questions about the program or about what I presented today, to think about and to pop them in the chat if you want to. Um, and we can talk about them together and answer some of your questions. So some of these questions in terms of time commitment, because I understand that a lot of us are time poor. So the content will be designed to be flexible and bite-sized with 4 integration weeks, so you can go at your own pace. And we also can offer flexible payment options to help to make these more accessible. Um, yes, I can share the slides afterwards. Definitely. Thank you for being here, Tina. Um, if there's no questions, I'll just say that thank you. Thank you, Tina. Um, Doors are opened and it will end. The closing date will be on the 6th of August at 5 p.m. WA time. I would love to support you in your journey to really live out and really embody all of the different shifts that we talk about today. Um, Thank you for your attention and your time during this morning. Oh, sorry, Tina, you asked a questions about do I offer supervision? Yes, I am. I do offer supervision. I'm a board approved supervisor. And just say thank you so much for an enjoyable and valuable workshop. Really love the meditation. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Um, so um Oh, am I here yet still? Oh, stop share. I think I should do stop share rather than the other one. So thank you so much for being here. And I think I feel like I just created a platform for me to bring my soapbox and actually start talking about my own interests. But thank you so much for being such an brilliant audience and thank you for your participation. I really appreciate that. Um, I hope that, we'll be able to see each other in a professional forum and I hope that you can start implementing the shifts to look after yourself. Thank you. Thank you for the very nice comments. Thank you. Thank you,
Bye,
Jacqueline.
Nina.
Bye
See you.
bye. See you.